AI data analysis, we can better understand the needs of startups and small businesses, anticipating challenges and offering a better service itself. So we believe that AI enables a more dynamic and inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, positioning our region as a leading innovation hub in Europe.
Welcome to the Digital Government Podcast. Tune in to discover the future of governance and ways of getting there.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Digital Government Podcast with your usual host, Federico Plantera, researcher and journalist and sociology, today accompanied by Piret Hirv, who's the head of the Data Management Competence Centre at e-Governance Academy, to talk about something extremely current, extremely salient, and that is not only a matter of regulation, which is exactly the use and implementation of artificial intelligence in government and government services. This is definitely a very salient topic because just in these weeks, we're waiting for some rulings actually in Europe that will also address the role, responsibilities and oversight of tech giants in terms of the digital regulations exactly that the European Union has adopted. But I think that something that, Piret, exactly to introduce today's topic, we need to highlight is also exactly the use that is done of artificial intelligence in government, which an OECD report called Governing with Artificial Intelligence, released and presented in September, has already given us some insights about. So first of all, Piret, I will give you the welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Federico. And as you said, it's a really fascinating topic. And just to set the tone of the discussion, implementing AI is way beyond technology, is way beyond laws, regulations. It is also about people, processes, and first of all, what kind of problem we are solving with AI? This is the question.
This is the question, and exactly, let's dive right into it, because one of the things that emerged and that the OECD report has highlighted is the fact that some experimentation is happening in government in terms of use cases, in terms of pilot projects, in terms of strategies or ideas on how to use artificial intelligence in order to improve public service delivery and as well access exactly to all the documents that could be important, not just to citizens, but also to businesses. We will get to the point of businesses in a little bit. But to start with, something that we learned from the OECD report, and on this basis that I just mentioned, is that governments are approaching artificial intelligence with a lot of ideas, a lot of ambition, a lot of wish and will, let's say, to utilize some of these tools. But even before talking about the use cases specifically, we see that the readiness in the first place to adopt these tools is quite uneven, let's say. It's quite irregular between countries, but also across levels of government or like different ministries. So horizontally and vertically, there is this like irregularity, let's say, of the AI readiness landscape when it comes to government. But from your perspective, considering that in the last weeks and in any case in the past few years already and a bit more, there has been, so much hype, let's say, about artificial intelligence and around artificial intelligence. How do we cut through this hype and actually manage to identify where artificial intelligence can genuinely add value to public services? Because this can also risk being just a shiny object, just a distraction.
As I said in my, when we started this discussion, then the first question is, what is the issue we're trying to solve? What are the functions we can actually support or replace by using AI, for instance? So I think that having these pilots, having this test is really important, because no innovation can happen in a closed box or something like this. You have to go out, you have to test with even with real people, with real environments, preferably maybe in some testing environments. But the thing is that first the question is, what are the issues we need to solve in general? not with AI, but in general, what are the kind of the narrow spots in our service delivery, in our data management, for instance, in our other processes in public sector. So first, define what is the topic, and then we can start developing the whole process from there.
I think that an interesting point in this is also connected to the fact that when we then get to talk or address or try to understand how to use artificial intelligence in government, then we also have to sort of like pass in review and check, double check, triple check, let's say triple check, all those other enablers that exactly allow governments to even think in the first place of implementing artificial intelligence and actually go beyond strategy papers and develop real action plans. So if we're talking about those enablers, no, what are some of those that we definitely need to mention and that governments really, really need to look into? I wouldn't say before getting into thinking of implementing artificial intelligence, but definitely before getting to deploy it and prototype it.
Actually, the OECD report also brought it up very bluntly. What is needed to have functioning, let's put it, not even AI-based services and functioning digital services in public sector. And I have to agree with OECD, because in our work we have seen the similar trend. What is needed? First, of course, people. You have to have people who are able to understand how the process work, what technology is needed, what are the threats, what are the ethical dilemmas implementing AI, how we can use data, from where we can get the data. And actually, I already kind of mentioned other enablers which are really relevant in all kind of digital services, which is, do we have data? What is the quality of the data? Can we access the data? How we design our processes, our services, because AI is still a tool. And if you haven't sorted out your processes in service delivery, in your organization, in your government unit or the whole ministry, then at the end of the day, what you get is a messy process, kind of smoothly covered with AI. So first of all, get it sorted, data, processes, governance. All sort of frameworks that are needed, who is doing what, who is responsible of doing what. I would bring in also this kind of definitions like the service owners, because there has to be a person actually who is responsible of developing services with AI or without AI, it doesn't matter, or even analog services. You still have to have a person responsible of smoothly running services, well-designed services. So I would say that in a nutshell, governance, data, skills, interoperability. This is something that is also very relevant, because having data in different data sets maybe will not help you that much, but you have to have interoperable systems as well. Systems need to talk to each other in order to deliver services or provide services.
Indeed, something as well that was highlighted in the OECD report was the fact that the operational risks are directly connected to, or better, directly affect the service delivery, in the sense that if there is this like over-reliance, in a sense, on automation, but then there is also, together with this over-reliance, which is not good, weak cybersecurity, poor data governance and data management. And Piret, of course, like you are the head of the Competence Centre on Data Management,
I'm
so
biased
of course
here.
I'm talking to you about it.
I am biased here. Data is like the basic element of building services and all the other activities in policy making, in government activities, in public sector.
Yeah, and exactly, and like including like all of these aspects do represent operational risks, because they're also related to the topic of governance that you have mentioned, the topic of responsibility and accountability for the service process development, and then ultimately, let's say, the delivery. But then based on this, I think that we can already like single out a couple of questions that are related exactly to the governance of these projects, and I think another one on the data ecosystems. So let's start from the data ecosystems. Exactly, as I said, for the very same reason that you're the guest of this episode and you're the head of the Competence Centre on this. Also, I will bring into the picture that we're describing, first of all, that listeners can find all the links and more facts from the OECD report in the usual text, blog text that I will write and that is attached to this podcast episode. But I will also bring into the picture actually a project that has proved to be, at least from my own perspective, an amazing testing ground for not just seeing how in practice local governments or national governments or city governments are thinking of implementing artificial intelligence, but also at the same time to kind of like cross-check and validate some things that we have been finding out throughout the process of working on this project, and that we have seen a blueprint of which we have seen as well in the OECD report. The project that I'm talking about is called Supporting Regional Entrepreneurship Through the Adoption of Innovative Technologies, including AI, in Public Services. And Piret, you are the team lead of this project, which is addressing the AI wishes and real-life current needs, I would say, for digital services and processes of 5 beneficiary regions, which are located 4 in Spain and 1 in Germany. We will hear from one of them a little bit later on in this episode. But before we get there, in terms of the data ecosystems, for example, the OECD has highlighted that exactly the importance of data quality and interoperability, and they have highlighted something that we have also found out. I mean, something that we knew already, but also something that we have found out, boots on the ground, being there, speaking to the agencies and the people that are bringing forward these projects of including AI for public services in the regions. This has also shown exactly that administration struggle, as you were mentioning, with fragmented data sets or the lack of interoperability, which means, or better, which leads to the question of how do you see governments realistically overcome this kind of like data barriers? Like, what is the role in the sense also of some small targeted projects or targeted pilots that can help uncover, let's say, these needs and actually help governments understand something that is not specific only to that project, but in general that can improve their own process and service delivery?
First of all, I think that this kind of grassroots level projects, they actually contribute to one of the building elements or these preconditions, which are skills, capacity building. And this is really important because I guess that regions, they know that, okay, we lack data, like this is obvious, or we don't have access to data, or we don't have access to services as it should be, or our service design maybe doesn't flow as it's supposed to. But talking about these kind of topics, like doing really practical exercises, explaining, evaluating together with the beneficiaries, this should actually complement the knowledge that local governments already have and kind of support them in their way of reaching this higher maturity of digitalization and digital awareness, so they can actually implement those services. So I think that the first point is the capacity building and knowledge that we will support and enhance. Then other thing is that, again, going through some really grassroots processes, planning those processes, designing, redesigning, thinking through what are the actual kind of use cases for AI, and just going them through on the paper. This is also something that can be supportive to beneficiaries and can support them in developing their future ideas. So I hope that our main value in this project is to bring the knowledge, think through the processes together with the beneficiaries, and eventually kind of find the common way how to move forward, because strategies are something that are happening somewhere on policy level, higher level, especially when we talk about countries like Spain, Germany, maybe some other countries as well, where they have very strictly like federal level, then they have municipality levels, completely different worlds. And the poor user of the services has to kind of navigate and find the correct way to get the services they need. And in this case, it doesn't matter, is it a private person or a company, they still need to have really well-designed services. So I guess that this kind of collecting data from the so-called field and going through these very grassroots level processes, hands-on, together with the beneficiaries, this adds value to the knowledge bank that the beneficiaries already have and help them to move forward with their goals and ideas how to improve the services.
I would add two elements to this because we're talking about capacity and data. One is the fact that we have mentioned, like both of us have mentioned in the beginning of the episode and also just now, that complex or like multi-layered administrative structures imply more effort on the side of those who want to implement artificial intelligence for service delivery. Exactly in order to bridge, let's say, all of these different layers of government and data sets and information systems that you need to leverage in order to deliver the service that you want to partly automate or that you want to use AI for. However, this also should not serve as a kind of excuse, no, to say, but it's not like I can change the whole structure of the government to do an AI project. Yeah, but at the same time, no one is really asking you to do that. But it's just to understand exactly within the government structures and across the levels and layers of government, what are the nodes, the ministries, the agencies, the people with whom you have to establish a connection, whether in the form of an MOU or, I don't know, like a task force for capacity building and people or whatever. But in any case, you need to exactly put in a little bit more extra effort to not drop the project simply to say, or like not drop the initiative, whichever that will be, to simply think, but the administrative structure is so complicated that I cannot deliver on this. But instead, finding exactly the ways to be able to deploy the technology and simplify maybe something that at the moment is extremely more complicated because of the administrative structure, which is actually the experience that us as users, citizens and businesses are faced with when we need to access a service. And exactly instead, we are aiming to simplify them by using technology and by making them digital. Piret, you wanted to say something on this?
Yeah, and one way to overcome this is actually to talk to your allies in government structures, together with whom you should develop those services, but also to talk to them, to this kind of partners who can prevent you to deliver the service or develop the service. So you need to have a network of organizations around this service, but you also have to have a network of the users of the services, because you need to talk to both. You need to know what your users of the service, what they actually need, what kind of services they need, and then you have to find allies together with whom you can develop the services within the government complicated structures. So, and you, Federico, you're absolutely right. This is not an excuse. So it might be maybe it makes your work a bit harder, but at the end of the day, then establishing good connections, collaboration networks actually helps you in the future also to develop services much easier.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to draw the attention of listeners to the fact that now we were talking about data, but we almost automatically went to talk also about governance of data and of services. This shows that the fact that the aspects and the topics are intertwined and they need to be addressed at the same time when we embark on this kind of projects. A second thing, though, that I wanted to highlight was that, so basically 1 week after the presentation of the OECD report, I have attended an event, one of the first events of OpenAI in Brussels, where I am based, where basically, which was one of the first events that was bridging a bit in the same panel, OpenAI, the European Commission, and other actors from startup and employers organizations and business organizations like chambers of commerce and this kind of thing. And something that was very interesting to notice was how many people in the first place in terms of this kind of practitioners, let's say, and in this kind of place, in any case, do think of a chatbot or a virtual assistant as sort of the go-to solution that you can think of implementing when you think of artificial intelligence. Why am I saying this? Because also there was a mini expo area in this event in Brussels, and in this mini expo area, the tools that were shown, let's say, for how AI works or like how AI can do something for you, one was obviously, the nice low-hanging fruit of the image generation. So you could go there, take a picture, and there would be an image generation, like, for example, with what was DAL-E, if people remember it. But then the two other tools that were displayed, which were not made by OpenAI, but in any case, like they were displayed there in this event, they were also chatbots. They were also chat interfaces, which is interesting. It means that at the moment, kind of like across the spectrum, the chat interface, so you talking to the machine, let's say, is really being seen as one of the main applications that we can envision at the moment, one of the main practical use cases, let's say, of deployment of artificial intelligence, as well in terms of delivering public services. But I would also stress on that. It was interesting for me to see it because that's not the only way of implementing artificial intelligence. Something that we have found out, actually working with some great experts that we're doing at the moment as part of this project in Spain and Germany, is that there could be different tools, different applications, different use cases. So there is no determinism, let's say, about I want to implement AI, which means that it has to be a virtual assistant or a chatbot. There are many things. There are many things that can also help governments and whoever is thinking of implementing these projects to go as well beyond pilots or beyond pilots that maybe, yes, can be taking place within the environment of a specific service or a specific organization. But it's also not really like we can end up at some point with having, 30 chatbots for 30 different services within the same government. That doesn't really help at that point. So it means that institutions and organizations that are aiming to implement artificial intelligence, Piret, as you were saying, they need to have a learning curve, in a sense that they need to have a learning curve that is powered and pushed by human capital, by capacity building, by skills, and that will actually also help people become more aware of the more possibilities that there are in terms of using and deploying artificial intelligence, even just back-end, let's say, but in any case, doing it in government, which is what society overall, I think, is calling more for, considering that there are so many services provided by the private sector that are somehow powered by AI, at least to a certain extent or in some segments, and now this call is being turned to governments as well. So when it comes to this institutional learning curve, that we were talking about, I would connect it exactly to the topic of capacity building, because the capacity building needs to last, in a sense. The OECD also has found exactly this in the report, the fact that project experiences are stressing even more, and we are actually one of those project experiences that show that as well, that skills are the decisive enabler together with data and interoperability. But at the same time, AI skills seem to have a bit of a short shelf life, let's say. They last a little bit like a piece of cheese, let's put it this way, in the sense that what is cutting edge today can be kind of outdated. I remember during the presentation it was mentioned in 2 years. I would say even less, actually, maybe even in 6 months or in 8 months, because the updates in this scene and this environment are happening constantly. So in this sense, how do you think that governments should think about capacity building in terms of models that can remain relevant over time, and at the same time that can help them, I would say, also reduce some over-dependence on external providers and experts, whether that's of technology or advice, because that's what we also talk about when we mention capacity building.
Here the solution for me is, I wouldn't say that quite simple, but quite straightforward. You have to have this organizational memory. You have to have this knowledge sharing ecosystem within the organization, and you have to have experts within your organization. So yeah, as you said, with external experts, you can't kick far, except if this the goal of these external experts is to support the capacity building activities within your organization. So the knowledge that the experts have, like this is the way like EGA is working. The knowledge that our experts have is actually something that we insist to leave in the organization with whom we are working currently. And for that we have different tools. Also the project that you mentioned before use the same tools that we have our e-learning platform, where we have all this knowledge is kind of stored and recorded. You can come back and revisit it and watch it again, or then peer learning activities like study visits. You can come to Estonia to learn here, or we can together organize, like we did within this project, we organize study trips to different countries. And yes, and this is something that people, they need to feel motivated to learn, and they need also to have this chance to use what they know, the expertise later on in this organization. So the only solution here is that you have to motivate, you have to train your own staff, your own experts, your own government officials, and then have them as a drivers of this innovation within the organization. And I wanted to come back also to these different AI tools that you talked about. True, even in our project, we also mapped tens, if I remember correctly, different tools that could be matched with very specific issues and topics of the beneficiaries. Of course, first you have to talk to the stakeholders and map those issues and what needs to improve. And then, we found out that there are a lot of tools. Also in Estonia, I can say that the government is using approximately 200 different AI-based kind of solutions within the government public systems. But you can't never tell that, okay, this is AI. Of course, we have chatbots where you can actually say that, or the chatbot is telling you, hey, I'm a chatbot, what do you want to know? But please be informed that no personal information should be kind of inserted in this chat window. So we have this very visible chatbots that are using AI, but definitely we have close to 200 different AI-based tools that our public sector is using in different processes. So there are like little pieces, bits, what governments can do, and you can't, like, this is the philosophy of my life actually. You can't fix the world at once. So you need to take these baby steps. Already planning something, having these ideas, this is good. Acknowledging that you need to kind of support your staff to be more knowledgeable about different technological solutions, and then moving forward, collecting together all these needed elements that technology needs actually to be efficient. So these are kind of baby steps. You can't fix it at once. One by one, this kind of iterative approach. And one thing that we need to understand here, innovation can fail. This is absolutely fine. I know it can be problematic in public sector. Well, you do this huge procurement process and you're trying to buy something very innovative. This was also something that was mentioned in this OECD report, that procurement is one of the kind of supporting elements of implementing AI, but we have to give space for failure as well. Yeah, and just to make sure then that these lessons of failure are not too expensive.
Talking instead of someone who is actually taking steps towards gaining this knowledge and experimenting with pilots, let's hear now actually from one of the beneficiaries of the project that we're taking care of in Spain and Germany. Indeed, we have reached out to Oscar Del Campo Barxias, who is the Deputy Director General for Entrepreneurship of the Community of Madrid, or Madrid region, if you prefer. And Oscar, it's very nice to have you here and let us know exactly what you've been up to in Madrid.
Thank you, Federico. I'm happy to stay with you, and thank you for the opportunity of sharing some information with you.
Exactly, because what we are interested in is understanding the impact. There is a lot of questions at the moment exactly on what the return on investment from implementing artificial intelligence for public services is. And these are considerations that obviously administrations interested in doing that are taking deeply into account. This is part of the project called Supporting Regional Entrepreneurship through the Adoption of Innovative Technologies, including AI, in Public Services. Very long name, project that will last basically until 2026. And the region of Madrid is one of the beneficiaries part of this project. So, Oscar, what we would like to know is exactly a little bit more of this of the experience of the Madrid region with implementing AI currently. So what, from your point of view, what does it mean, let's say, to implement artificial intelligence in the specific case of the Community of Madrid with the objective of offering better services for entrepreneurs of the region? How have you thought about it? What are some considerations that emerge or that went into that?
Yes, it is quite difficult topic to talk about, but we consider that AI will help us. So for us, the implementation of artificial intelligence in our region represents, a major step forward in how we design and deliver public services for entrepreneurs. Our vision is, let's say, use AI not as a replacement for human attention, of course, but as a tool for helping our staff, and our citizens. For instance, through AI data analysis, we can better understand the needs of startups and small businesses, anticipating challenges and offering a better service itself, So we believe that AI enables a more dynamic and inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, positioning our region as a leading innovation hub in Europe.
I'm pretty sure that you also have seen, the more people use large language models in their daily life, the more maybe there is a bit of an expectation placed on public services to be more efficient and to integrate some of these technologies as part of the chain, the value chain, the chain of command, in any case, the line that takes ultimately users to be able to utilize services that are efficient and effective. In this sense, even though, as I mentioned, the region of Madrid is one of the beneficiaries of this project, definitely we have been dealing with a lot of, specificities that are to tailor exactly this implementation, not just to the needs of the beneficiaries, but also to reflect a bit the characteristics of the region where these happen overall. In this sense, Oscar, do you think that there are some lessons learned or things that you have observed, at least so far going through the project, that maybe can also be generalized to be applicable to others as well? Meaning, is there anything that you would point out or that you would say to other policymakers, decision makers, change makers in other regions of Europe that are, and of the world actually, that are aiming to integrate artificial intelligence in the delivery of public services?
Yes, well, they are quite many so far, but we are working on the project. But if I have to say one or a couple of lessons learned, I would highlight that AI projects must begin with a clear purpose. And that is because AI often requires sharing data, and most of the time critical data. So it links with transparency. So you must be able to explain citizens how the algorithms work for them to feel confident and safe. So first lesson, a clear purpose. And just let me add one more. I feel, as a civil servant, I feel that training for our civil servants and myself in digital skills is also crucial to ensure confidence in ourselves and in our citizens.
Amazing, Oscar. Thanks a lot. We've touched upon 2 points that we've discussed plenty about with Piret, but also in general throughout this project, which are exactly data and skills, very foundational elements. So, Oscar, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thanks to you.
Piret, let's get back to us, because since we're talking about pilots and also about the project that we've been working on in Spain and Germany, something that was brought up by the OECD report was also the fact that a lot of these AI initiatives not just display uneven readiness across government and across governments in implementing them, but they also show that there are many projects that get a bit stuck in pilots, in the sense they are pilots, but then they don't really go forward, maybe for budgetary constraints or because the return on investment on these projects is not very clear, which is definitely something that needs to be assessed, needs to be taken into account, and actually we have widely addressed this year at the past e-governance conference, from bites to benefits. And the question then that I would ask you, heading towards the end of this episode is, what do you think that are the main barriers to scaling? In a sense, how can governments avoid this kind of trap where projects are initiated, they say, this is very nice, but then they don't really reach maturity or wider adoption?
It's a really good question, huh? If I know the answer, we would fix the half of the world right away. But if I'm thinking that budget is one thing, but then you have to design, and I would also bring in, I talked about this already before, you have to design, even when it's only a prototype, you have to design the service together with your users. So, and you have to kind of fix the real life problems with your AI solutions or your digital services. If you don't do that, then the uptake of the solution would be quite poor, and then why to bother to waste the money? Coming back to these benefits of the solutions, digitalization is never a cheap job. It is expensive, and we have to also consider that the benefits are maybe somewhere else. So maybe it can be monetized how people's lives are getting easier. Maybe we can calculate this in money if the process of registering your company gets faster. Again, I'm coming back to the processes. If the process is too bureaucratic, then technology will not help you here. Then the problem is somewhere else. But as long as the technology can go, then we can calculate how many more companies, or how much faster is the registration, or how this supports the overall environment or ecosystem of startups or companies. So always I wouldn't say that's black and white, that the benefits are where the solution is created. So, and this social benefits of societal benefits of the solutions, we can't underestimate those. Me coming from Estonia, I can see, of course, that how the development of digital solutions, how sometimes we struggle, these updates and new versions and legacy and all these discussions behind that. But as a person living in Estonia, I really enjoy that online digital tools actually make my life easier. Do I care how much does it cost for the government? As a citizen, maybe not. As a public sector worker, you have to think about it, but then you also need to consider that the benefit can be somewhere else. What is also important is that building this kind of tools, it takes time. And I don't know, in Brussels, in Italy, or in Estonia, the life cycle of politicians and the political will and the political decisions is, I would say, 4 years. But really having functioning AI-based solution from the building it from scratch takes a lot of money, and you can see only the results after your period of being part of the government is or like ruling party is like it's over, and somebody else will pick the fruits, the next party. So again, this political cycle, it's also, I can see that it can be politicians, they need to take risks together with innovators, but I don't know, not a single one who does actually.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean, this is exemplifying what it means to work for a societal benefit or for a societal return. Like exactly the fact that the work needs to be done because you think that this is needed, because you think that this is good, because you think that this is actually going to solve real people's problems who have real problems and that want them exactly solved and who want governments to help them through public services, because we're talking about services that should exactly serve citizens and businesses.
Yeah, this is the task of the governments. I don't know, are there any tasks for the governments?
More
Probably
than this? Yeah, there are some more, but this is a definitely fundamental one, I would say.
Yeah. Serve your people, make their lives more comfortable, more valuable, so they can actually kind of create value somewhere else. So, but we don't have to think about technology supported services as really like overarching, expensive, huge projects. As I explained, like you also can go step by step and cover some of the processes by using technology, and you don't have to kind of build the house at once.
Piret, a final question to wrap up this episode, because the work that we have done so far in as part of this project, and also all the other information around it that we are collecting about the use of artificial intelligence in government, not just in terms of current scenarios and not just in terms of existing reports, but us ourselves actually working on developing a method, developing a direction, a template for this that can work not just for regional governments, as it is the case in this specific project that we mentioned, but also to work for other administrative layers, whether they are national or more local. And then in any case, it's something that many learnings and a lot of research that we're doing that we are going to take forward with us. If we were now to just leave with a little list of checkboxes, let's say, just a few ingredients, or better, some of the ingredients we have already mentioned for thinking of implementing effectively artificial intelligence in for service delivery. We mentioned data, we mentioned interoperability, we said skills connected to capacity building. We also mentioned governance and redesign of processes, which is exactly what supports the delivery of a service in the first place, whether that's based on artificial intelligence or not. What is a little list of things to check, or like a list of check boxes that we can give our listeners to keep thinking about how to implement artificial intelligence effectively in public services?
You actually mentioned all the you listed it already, but yeah, I would add here also.
Yeah, that's because we're working together on this, so
Yeah.
that's why. So these
that's
are
why,
conversations that we have
reading,
so
yeah.
often, you know. So
We read the same papers, and yes, true, we do have these discussions. So yeah, data, interoperability, people, skilled people, then governance, then digital transformation in general, I would say, because one thing is that okay, people need to use these new services, but also people in public administrations, they need to work with these new solutions. So it also demands something from not only from executors of the solutions, but also from the whole organization. Like the change management is quite the important element here. I think we talked about budget as well. It's like earmarked budget and earmarked for the innovation. This is something that is relevant, and let's allow ourselves to have mistakes. So this is also something that we should not prevent us doing things because we want to fail.
and also to allow ourselves past mistakes, let's say, revisit processes that maybe do not work as they should.
Exactly. And the wise thing is to learn from others' mistakes.
Piret, thanks a lot for joining me today.
Thank you, Federico, and see you next time.
See you next time also to all the listeners of the Digital Government Podcast who tuned into this episode. That's it also from your usual host, and I'll see you all at the next one.
This podcast is brought to you by the eGovernance Academy. Tune in next time.